and welcome to another Monday Morning Musings. It's April 13th, 2020, 1 week to go from 420. You know I've definitely been smoking weed like there's no tomorrow. But I've been balancing it with edibles because I know the coronavirus targets those who smoke. I don't smoke cigarettes. I smoke a marijuana. But it's been fun to see the time pass by as fast as it has been in some cases, and slightly depressing to see how long this is going to take, but we don't know. But what I do know is there's so many fucking morons in this country that wanted to go to church yesterday. Folks, listen to the God you worship. Leave unto Caesar what is Caesar's. If the government tells you something's bad, you probably should listen. I mean, definitely do your own research, but come on. We'll jump into that in a sec. Anyways, it's been a huge week of disappointments. Bernie dropping out of the race. You know, I definitely said my piece on Twitter about it, that the Democratic leadership or America's leadership fucking sucks because the only real choice that citizens have right now for president because of the system is a lying con man that has assaulted multiple women, that lies, has broken many laws as president of the United States, including the emoluments clause. But unfortunately, the Democrats and the Republicans are just as guilty, so they won't throw him in jail for that. Thank you, Tulsi Gabbard, for pointing that out. Or the other choice is a lying assaulter, perpetrator. I don't think assaulter is a word, which is why I had to delete a tweet real quick and then remake it to perpetrator. But the pervert, Joe Biden, what he did to Tara Reade, I believe her. And the amount of disdain and hypocrisy that has come from the Joe Biden camp, especially for so many people that were for the Me Too movement, but they're not for the Me Too movement if it ruins the chances of their political hopeful. Now, this is a tough situation because the nuance of this, and some reporters have really put this out on Twitter very well, that if you abstain from voting for Joe Biden, it's a vote for Trump. It's a vote to continue the Muslim ban. It's a vote to continue to put kids in cages. It's a really fucked up way to put it like that. There is some truth, but the blame shouldn't be on the voters. The blame needs to be on the Republican and Democratic parties, especially the Democrats. If this is the best they could do over the last 4 years, what the fuck? And then you hear Hillary Clinton saying, oh, Joe Biden is building the same coalition I did. Bitch, you lost! You lost to what is now the most dangerous president in modern history, because the man is just a empty vassal of idiocy and all the best words that a 7-year-old can come up with. There was a wonderful comedian on Useful Idiots that, because he would hang out with Trump, he said Trump is just, he's a 12-year-old kid that never grew up. Even the way he postures himself, it's like a little kid trying to be a grown-up, trying to posture like a grown-up. And within the whole psychological profile of where Trump comes from, yeah, that totally makes sense. And what's even tougher, too, is that people that knew Trump before all of this, would tell you how much of a con man and et cetera he was. But he was a schmoozer. This is fucked up to say, but I could even see myself in 2014, 2015, if I saw past the birther movement that fucking asshole continued to put out. Hell, I even bought into it a bit back in my Mormon days, thinking that, well, maybe there's something to this birth certificate thing. And then you realize that he provided both forms of birth certificates, and this hunt was ridiculous, and it's just a dog whistle for racism, which it is. I mean, they don't do that shit to Mitt Romney. His dad was born down in Mexico. His family's down from Mexico. Anyways, Bernie's out. The best candidate, the best choice. He was better than Warren. Sorry on all you Warrenites, but she She hired some shitty staffers. I mean, why the fuck would you push your golden retriever for big structural Bailey instead of being, I'm going to rip the throat out of every corporate banker that has been fucking over the American people? If she said that with the fuck, holy shit. I mean, she could have surpassed Bernie using that feminine power, because yeah, it would be a breath of fresh air to have a woman in the presidential role. But at the end of the day, it shouldn't matter what sex you are. It matters what policies you bring to the table. Bernie had the best policies. And yes, we can pay for it. That lame excuse, how do we pay for this? Taxes, systems in place. The same thing we did in the 1950s. We've done this before. We tax the rich at a certain bracket over 90%, and boom, we can all of a sudden afford all of these programs that help the country be better. And the conservative argument, which would have merit and which was a good counterbalance to too much government spending or too much government oversight, you know, there is, just like with unions. Unions are awesome until they're not. And I prefer to have unions than no union, but working in construction many years ago, you would find people like, oh, we need 2 operators for this job. They're both going to get paid full time for the full day, but we only need them 4 hours each. Just like you would see that type of layered bullshit where you're like, all right, you're taking advantage of the situation. Now you're giving more ammunition for the corporate class to fight against unions. Anyways, so a lot of heat's been going back and forth on Twitter. I had some insults thrown my way, and even from a hero of mine, Adam Sessler, which I had to take with a grain of salt because he's angry, along with every other Democrat out there, because Bernie's out and they have to vote for Biden, and people don't want to vote for Biden. And so it's the same scenario all over again. They don't want to vote for Hillary. Like my parents, they didn't want to vote for Hillary. I can't blame them. I only voted for Hillary because Bernie Sanders said so. So I'm voting for Joe Biden because Bernie Sanders said so. And that's it. I'm sorry, Tara Reid. I hope you can forgive me. That's the only person's fucking opinion that matters here right now, is a woman that was assaulted by Joe Biden and everybody in the corporate media world that's turned their back on her. I can't take these people seriously when they treat us like morons. Just come out and say, yeah, we know Joe Biden is on mental decline. They can't say it because nobody would want to vote for him. So what they should do is focus on the policies and procedures in the cabinet that's going to move forward. Who is going to be on the Joe Biden team? Who is Team Biden? I don't give a shit about Joe. The man can barely push out a sentence. I respect him for the leadership and the position that he's had in the past. He has done some good things, but my goodness, what a way to tarnish the rest of your career. Forcing the American people to vote for you because the other choice is evil. Yet you are just the lesser of two evils. It fucking sucks. So a lot of tension high on Twitter, but don't worry, I forgive. And I'm also right just about every time. Sometimes I'm not, but I win pretty much almost all of my debates. Of course I would say that because of my ego, but it's true. Facts are on your side when you've studied this shit out long enough, especially religion. Oh my goodness. Well, happy Easter, everybody. I hope you had a good one. It was a beautiful sunshine day up here near Seattle. Now, sometimes I have people ask me, my family, but you know, you don't believe in God. How do you celebrate these events? Just like with Christmas, it's cultural, baby. You know, you don't have to be so obtuse that you don't want to participate in all the fun stuff that tradition, which religion is part of almost every country's tradition, in bad ways, more bad ways than good ways. Yeah, I had a nice Easter. I love to reflect on nature, life, seeing life being born out of winter. It's a wonderful time. It's the whole reason why we celebrate that. And later on, Christianity was attached to it. Thanks to the Pope and the Catholic Church for that, 1,000-year rule amidst the known world. Until the printing press was invented, it was illegal to have the Bible in English. You'd be burned at the stake. Until William Tyndale and others used the power of the printing press to get the Bible into the people's hands so they could realize that the church was teaching bullshit. Indulgences, limbo, all these angels and saints, not in the Bible. So then came the Protestant movement, then came revolution after revolution after revolution, and then boom, the great secular state of America was formed. The great hope of every nation that came before it to not be attached to an entity that is invisible. No God, no church, just people. And that's what the founding fathers did. Unfortunately, they didn't classify all the humans in their midst as people. Some were against slavery. Some used it as the main backbone of their income. Jesus. Slavery went on for 400 years plus in this latest version of the world. And we're still suffering the scars because of it, and we will continue to suffer unless we have reparations. Germany did it. Time for us to do it. I think some of the best plans I've seen is the African American or minority communities, especially my community, the Native American, Chickasaw, would have access or priority for weed businesses, weed sale businesses, dispensaries, grower sharecrops, etc. Yes, good idea. Needs to be more, but good idea. Don't let these fucking corporations sweep in and harvest all the hard work. So many people have put their lives into this. I mean, we're really lucky here, us millennials. Can you imagine, you know, the arguments people would have against the state of why marijuana is better than alcohol, and the alcohol board going, oh, it's not true, and referring to reefer madness and other bullshit propaganda back in the day. Again, this is the power of the internet, the power of having the information in the hands of the people. That's why the internet is the printing press 2.0, and we are seeing a revolution. Hopefully it doesn't become violent, but that is on the table. Just like every revolution. We just need to exhaust all of our other methods first. Anyways, hope you had a great secular Easter. I did. I had a friend of mine share a story on Instagram saying, you know, she spent 11 minutes going through her personal journey, haven't been to church, experiencing, you know, spiritual miracles on your own. Where are you at? And I wrote a bit of a lengthy response saying, I was a believer for 16 years. 2 of those years I was an ordained minister. And there is nothing that compares to the freedom of knowing truth and living it, learning truth and living it. And the truth is, there is no God. The Bible is fake news. Jesus Christ is a made-up story. When the Jews lost their temple to the Romans, it was destroyed. They had a crisis of faith. And one of the most popular stories around them was about this passion figure who would come and save the people, then die and be resurrected on the third day and come back. It was all an allegory to the night sky and the day. And when the sun goes down for 3 days and then comes back, it's like, oh no, the sun is dying. Winter is upon us, the winter solstice. But then, oh, it comes right back. And it starts to stay longer in the sky, day after day after day, until we get to spring. So it's the whole story, the cycle of Earth and the seasons. It was like a popular comic book. It was like Captain America for all these different groups around the Jews. And so they took one of their angelic characters, Yeshua, Jesus, and retconned the story and made him into this teacher that came years ago and taught, but then he was killed. You know, and that's why the temple was destroyed. He predicted the temple would be destroyed. Now we have to fulfill the words of Isaiah and other prophets. The prophet that was promised, the Son of God, did come, and he was killed. So this story becomes popular amongst many different Christian sects, and there's oppression against them, and oppression always kind of fosters a deeper rooted belief in what you're doing if you're oppressed. So for a couple hundred years, there was different texts that were written. I mean, no text in the Bible existed in the New Testament until at least 90 to 120 years after the fact. There is no documented historical evidence of any figure like Jesus being around at that time, and there was no taxation. That kicks off why Mary and Joseph had to leave. I mean, there may be something because they kind of have to force him being born in Bethlehem to fulfill, the prophecy of the son of David. But could there have been a teacher that later on was deified? Possibly, because there's that one caveat why they had to force him to be born in Bethlehem. But other than that, there's none. And when people refer to Josephus, no, Josephus was a hired writer that was commenting on the Christian sects. They knew the Christians believed in this Jesus, but there is no historical documentation whatsoever of this figure. And there would have been. There was a number of historians in the area that was recording everything else. What do you think? There was some sort of agenda to remove all the historical context so people could only use their faith to believe in Jesus? Fuck that noise. That is just convenient, backbreaking, or backbending. I mean, you got to bend backwards to accommodate that type of viewpoint. That's what I did for 16 years. Everything that would come at me that was contrary to my faith, I'd either have to put it on the shelf or realize or just get backed up into the wall of faith. They would say, oh, well, God works in mysterious ways. What a fucking cop-out answer. Fuck that noise. Anyways, so you can tell I have anger and animosity towards this, and it's totally justified because of the unfortunate lack of separation of church and state in this country. The majority of Republicans believe that gay people should be stoned to death, that if you don't believe in Jesus Christ or baptized and be a believer, then you're going to burn in hell. They don't give a fuck about babies. They don't care the type of life you have on earth. All they care about is that you're born, because they think their God's going to punish them if they allow abortions, yet their God is totally pro-abortion. 4 times it's mentioned in the Bible. God is pro-abortion. He gives instructions on chemicals to use to abort the baby. So this entire perverted form of Christianity, the GOP form of it, is a tool for opiate of the masses, for them to follow their way because they believe in the same God as 33% of this country. Well, that's evil. That's the whole reason why the founding fathers had separation of church and state, is so you cannot instill the policies of your God into the political systems of America. And unfortunately, it's been happening for far too long. You cannot create a fair policy for people if you think everything is going to get made up in the end in the millennium. You cannot create fair policies for nature here if you think Jesus Christ is going to come back and everything's going to be hunky-dory for 1,000 years in the millennium. You cannot confidently believe in the human experience if you think there is a greater being than all of us that's going to reward everybody no matter what happens on this planet. They're just desserts. So your responsibility for taking care of the planet and taking care of your fellow beings is diminished because there's a God that's taking care of all of us. That's some of the dangers of religion. Now, people are going to get triggered. Oh, but I believe and I'm a good person. I'm sure you are. I was a good person and I believed, but I'm a better person for separating my wants and desires to help my fellow man, not because some deity told me so and I'll burn in hell for not doing it, or according to the Mormon faith, the most updated version of Christianity, you cannot enter into the highest kingdom and you cannot progress to become like God, which can be your own personal hell if you don't follow these commandments. What a terrible plan to reveal these commandments and the most important information the entire human race should know to a group of nomadic, desert-dwelling, illiterate. No, I mean, they're nomads. They're going around the desert, up in the mountains until they finally find a place to conquer. And at this time, the Chinese already invented writing. They had the most advanced culture on the planet. Why did God not go to them? Or human beings existed, at least in this current form, for at least 200,000 years. And most of us died in our 30s from bad teeth or childbirth. For 200,000 years. Nothing from on high. Until all of a sudden he reveals himself. God reveals himself to this desert-dwelling nomadic people rather than the most advanced civilization on the planet. I can't subscribe to that anymore. Even if it was true, the plan is so bad. God is such a failure. Most of his children will have never heard of Jesus Christ. Most of them will therefore burn. Unless you believe in unless you actually read the scripture, 2 Peter, when Jesus died, he went to heaven for 3 days. The spiritual plane, if you will, and taught spirits for 3 days until he was resurrected. Why would he do that? Why would he teach the spirits about his journey, his fulfillment, unless those spirits had some sort of redemption? Well, how could they be redeemed if they were never baptized? As is the commandment, you must be baptized. Just as Jesus was baptized, he was perfect, but he was baptized as well. He even says, therefore, should all be baptized. If you were one of the billions upon billions that was born before Jesus ever lived, so that means you're going to hell. Most Christians believe that. And that's fucking evil. Most Christians believe that the Chinese will burn in hell at the end of the day. If you ask them at the end of the day, what's going to happen to all the Chinese people who never heard about your God? Oh, they're going to burn in hell. Wow. Well, fuck your God. He sucks. Or she. What a failure. All right, y'all. So that's a lot of my anger coming out towards religion, but it especially was super hot because I was watching these idiots like Charlie Kirk, who's just a fucking asshole grifter, tweeting over and over again, this is against the Constitution. They should open up the churches to allow them to worship. We're in a pandemic, dude. They shut down the churches for the bubonic plague, okay? We're shutting down the churches and congregations and groups for this pandemic. I mean, he just peddles hate and propaganda, but it was so satisfying for me to just see how weak and fucking pathetic his God is that he worships, that it can't do anything against this virus. Any religion is easily used as a force for evil. Anyone. This form of Christianity is evil. Look at the GOP. Look at some of our Democrats. They are only able to justify the policies they put in place that affects every person on this planet because of what they believe in as they worship in their own closets. And that is against the Constitution. That is against the spirit and the letter of the law, separation of church and state. Let's move on to some content. Hope you had a great Easter. All right, For the Trees Swamp Thing Invitational, presented by Grey Gardens. That's my weed company, which is pretty much just me growing in my own backyard, which is all I need for the moment. But I figured this is going to be something fun. This is the last of my savings. This is the last of the little scratch I had left on the side in order to produce a possible tournament. I didn't have enough to produce Battle for Seattle, but I figured I could do something fun. Play some Injustice 2 because the Mortal Kombat community I was really fired up about some stuff, but I figured we need some fun. And what better fun than some Swamp Thing and Injustice 2? But the Mortal Kombat community is in a really good spot because Mortal Kombat Legends Scorpion's Revenge is coming out, and that's going to be the prize for the winner of this tournament. It's so good. The film is excellent. And something's coming out this Tuesday at 5 p.m. that I'm a part of. So make sure to put that on your calendar. Hopefully that'll be announced soon from my friends that I worked with. But this Tuesday, the 14th, 5 p.m. Pacific time, mark your calendars. And then mark it for April 24th, 5 p.m. Swamp Thing For the Trees Invitational. We be smoking weed. It's going to be fun. Final Fantasy VII Remake. Wow. Wow. The music, the nostalgia. This game is huge for me because of the music. When I was on my Mormon mission, we couldn't listen to contemporary music, but they'd allow us to listen to hymns. And I said, fuck this. I'm listening to my video game soundtracks, Chrono Cross, Final Fantasy 7, 8, all the Final Fantasy albums that had been out. I ripped them all on an MP3 CD and had an MP3 CD player and just listened to that at night. And it brought me a lot of comfort. So going through this game and playing and hearing these songs remastered, I would hit the pause menu and just cry. Just cry. Because of how much this music means to me. How much these characters mean to me. Man, they really went into serious lengths to develop these characters in a great fashion. The voice acting on the English side, I always have trepidation when it's a Japanese produced game and using English as the spoken language because things are lost in translation or sometimes it's so cringe to follow the mouth flap. But I remember when Valve had this technology when Half-Life 2 was coming out that the software would be able to move the muscles in the mouth around the words of the language being said rather than trying to have to mouth flap. Now, you can't do that in animation. Once it's animated, boom, it's done on paper, like with Pokemon and stuff like that. But with this, you're in a 3D space with 3D rendered models that you can implement that software and be like, all right, this is the English version. And then their words line up to how their faces move. So it feels authentic. Way more authentic than trying to force in the mouth flap. So I'm very, very happy with Final Fantasy VII Remake. The camera could be a lot better, though. The battles definitely get action-packed, especially the boss battles, and it's a bit tricky at first to understand, but then you start to get the rhythm, and it's fun. But the camera could be a lot better. All you need to do is if you want to change the lock-on to a different enemy, just hold down L1 and move the right stick. Tifa. Wow. I mean, the way that Tifa and Aerith look at you, at Cloud, but they're looking at the camera at you, it's like, it doesn't feel like the Uncanny Valley. I mean, it feels... because they're not going for photorealism. These are, artistic characters, but it feels real. Ooh, yeah. Real good. This is why I'm single. My standards are too high. I need somebody like Tifa or Aerith. I'm like, that woman doesn't exist. Or if she did, she's taken. That's okay. So definitely play it. There's a lot of responses right now on the ending. I guess the ending changed compared to 7. I don't know what it is. I'm staying spoiler free, but if anything happens to Tifa, I'm gonna fucking rage, which I don't think would be the case. But I mean, we know what happens to Aerith, which there's a number of moments of foreshadowing that hits you right in the feels. I played Final Fantasy VII, I don't know how many times. It was the first PlayStation game I ever played. Big shout out to my friend Danny Comley. Let me borrow the PlayStation. Yeah, that was that. Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3, all around that time. And then here we are, Resident Evil 3, Final Fantasy VII, all getting remakes, playing on the PlayStation. But it's good. I feel Square Enix really nailed it, and I'm very happy. So I'm going to try to beat that as soon as I can. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow. And then get back to life. It's sunny out, so I got to work on the yard and write, and may have some business dealings here on the corner, but yeah, the weather outside's great, but the atmosphere in America is really cloudy right now. Podcasts, check out my podcasts. I haven't posted one, obviously, in a while, but got 8 of them up there. Good conversation with good folks, definitely worth it. Also, Useful Idiots had a great episode. Their guest was Matt Stoller, writer of a book called Goliath. They do a post-mortem in the moment because Bernie announces he's dropping out while they're recording the episode. But Matt Stoller talks about power. Talks about how to understand the language of these bankers. and brought up a really good point that there is a literacy problem when it comes to our leadership of how power works. What is a hedge fund? So I need to read that book, better understand the language of this power so it's easier to fight against it. Shout outs, Coliseum's wrapping up soon, or has a couple more events, I believe. So make sure to hit up Mr. Aquaman and the twins. Shout out to the entire team that put together Mortal Kombat Legends Scorpion's Revenge. It is so good. I highly recommend you purchase it. I'm going to do a full-on review later, maybe at the end of this week. I'd love to do a watch-along as well. The watch-along for Mortal Kombat, the 1995 movie, is fun. I know Mortal Kombat posts that on Twitter. So yeah, so that's around the corner. Just got to beat Final Fantasy VII. Now, if you've made it all the way through this episode and you harbor ill will towards me because of my experience and viewpoints on faith, hey, that's all right. You know, I would love to talk this out anytime, anywhere. I'm happy to debate anybody on religion at any time because I am an expert on it. But one of the things that I have to continue to struggle with is not let my anger get the better of me, because there's a lot of wonderful memories that I have within my own faith that had nothing to do with the doctrine or spiritual side, more or less. I mean, it had something to do with the spiritual side, but it was the people, great moments with people, good friendships. Hell, surviving in Compton, Watson, South Central for 2 fucking years as a missionary. Some of the crazy memories I have of that. So I would like to part with you this, that if you still hold on to faith, if you're a member of religion, if you're active, my qualms are with the doctrine and your leaders. My qualms are not with you. You are a brother or sister to me on this planet. And even though you may be blinded, it doesn't mean I won't be your friend. And I'm very, very, very grateful for the friends I had that knew I was in a cult. All religions are cults, just the only difference is time. But they were wonderful friends to me. And how much fun we've had now that I've been out of the faith, and how much it was worth to maintain those relationships. I hope this next month, because I think we're going to be indoors until the end of May. Until the end of May. It's only the 13th of April. I hope this next month will bring peace and clarity for some people that are starting to get really anxious. And I really hope that we can have patience for those that are in the leadership world that want to get back to work before our quote-unquote economy falls. It's already fallen. We're already in the recession. We're in a depression, most likely. But to all those people, I sincerely hope you put your fellow beings and yourself first before attempting to dictate what your God says or making a decision that could kill many people in this life, but in your head justifying it because the life after this is so much better. You have no guarantees. I'd prefer this life and to live it as long as I can in a healthy and happy state. Okay, play Final Fantasy VII Remake. Let me know in the comments below what you thought or what you think of the game. Please, no spoilers. And I will see you next week. I'll see you online.